Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is a podcast dedicated to helping owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses work on their business, build the premier accounting firm in their area, and get paid what they're worth. It's on this show that we actually speak with the experts, those individuals that have insights that we can use as we run our businesses, ranging on topics from marketing, selling, pricing, to client onboarding, tech stacks, mental health, and so much more. Each and every week, we have on the experts to share with us basically their perspectives as to what it is we can be doing to better our businesses and, in fact, become the premier accounting firm in our area. Now, this is going to be a great show. I've got Jason Snyder on. He happens to be the founder of CFO Advisors, which provides profit-first and fractional CFO services to small businesses. Jason is also the co-founder of Summit E-commerce Advisors, which serves only e-commerce businesses and entrepreneurs. Jason has nearly 30 years of experience as an entrepreneur in a wide variety of industry niches, from finance and accounting to international trade to marketing, consulting, and so much more. Jason has a passion for teaching and sharing his knowledge with other entrepreneurs. Jason is currently working on coaching and implementing Profit First in as many businesses as possible, helping eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. Jason noticed in his time starting and operating two different bookkeeping and accounting firms that there weren't enough teachable methods for managing cash. And when he came across the Profit First book, he immediately jumped into starting two businesses to coach, teach, and implement the Profit First systems to other entrepreneurs. Jason also has spent 25 years in finance and accounting and has found his sweet spot in bridging the gap between accounting and entrepreneurship. Jason is also one who has experienced in international trade, business development, digital and direct response marketing, and leadership coaching. Jason can be found spending most of his time in his hobbies, such as sports, traveling, and enjoying the outdoor activities. Jason's fun fact: he happens to be fluent in Mandarin Chinese and played Aussie rules football for nearly a decade. So, Jason, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks, Roger, for that great introduction.
You bet. Well, it's your life, so I'm hoping you're living it.
I try to every day, yes.
Good. Well, one of the things that I want to do is we've had a few conversations. I obviously met you at ProfitCon most recently, and we had a good discussion about some things related to offshore accounting. So I'm eager to jump into this just simply because I think your history is amazing. I think what you're doing is incredible, and I believe you have a number of insights to really offer to the listeners. So let's first of all start with a little bit of background and give us an idea of how you got into the accounting profession.
So it starts back in late 90s, as I recall, I was being entrepreneurial and trying to develop some business and brokering business finance. So SBA loans, accounts receivable factoring. I think this was prior to bank deregulation, when there was a lot of small finance houses, if you will, and they were looking for brokers. And so many of my clients didn't have accounting that was up to their underwriting standards. And so bridging the gap of having to prepare the packages, I had to hire people. And then I figured out, hey, I could just keep some of that myself as I learned how to do it. So I taught myself accounting. And actually, a fun fact, you guys were way back then had some programs, as I recall, bookkeeping. And I think I bought one of your courses way back, somewhere around that same time frame. So that was part of my self-teaching back then.
Well, first of all, I love hearing that. Every time I find someone that's an alumni of Universal Accounting Center, it's an honor. So I don't know that I knew that. So that's actually pretty impressive. So with regards to the training, you're kind of going through this self-study element. What caused you to want to start a business and more or less an accounting business?
It comes around to where was the need for? Because when you're an entrepreneur, you're looking for where's the need and can you have an offering for what they're experiencing. And it was pretty easy for me to learn how to basically did some courses, checked out library books, and got my first version of QuickBooks and reconstructed financial statements from scratch to teach myself how to do it, to develop these packages. Because when I first started, I was just getting loan commission fees. And then I learned, hey, I got to put these packages together. I'm going to start charging for it because the clients need it. They didn't want to go. They had some waiting list for their CPA or whoever they were working with on their accounting end. And so it was just bridging the gap of the need for my clients.
So obviously, as an entrepreneur, you're seeing things that others are perhaps overlooking. Go into a little bit more detail as to what that gap was. What was it that you were like, okay, I can go in here and not only service, but more importantly, make money doing this?
Yeah, early on, I'm not sure where it came from, but what I saw was most all of the bookkeeping where that was up to date was formulated in a 1040 form, if you will. So they had the line items in your P&L that largely conform to the 1040. And as a business owner, that's not enough to be able to translate and to make business decisions around what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, what's the story. I look at bookkeeping in our financial statements as a story. And if you look at it from that angle rather than just trying to fit things into a box, then it kind of expands on what you can do with your clients and how you can work with them. And that's kind of where it's putting those two, the demand together, and then my maybe unique approach to it. And that's where things took off from there.
Well, one of the things that I like you're saying is the word story. I agree completely. As I've worked with my business clients, one of the things that I've really tried to help them realize is they're living their story. They're going to work every day and they're experiencing the business. And as they're in the weeds of it all, doing all the day-to-day type things, I want to put the financials in front of them at the end of the month and basically say, okay, you lived this. How well does this kind of relate or simulate what it is you experienced? And it's amazing to me when they look at it and they're like, I don't understand this. I don't understand what it's telling me. And over the time, they come to learn what that financial report means and how it correlates to what they're experiencing. And eventually it starts to resonate with them. It starts to actually speak to them like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Those are the numbers that I recall as we made business decisions, whether it's revenue or expense based. Those are the things that I recall. It goes from this, I have no idea what I'm looking at. This doesn't speak to me. This makes no sense, to I love this because it is helping me remember what's happening in my business. And now I can make some informed business decisions because I can see how everything's correlating. Would you relate to that?
Yep, that's exactly how, when I would have calls with clients, the clients that would engage with me and talk to me, that's what I would bridge that gap of, hey, you made this decision here. Here's the impact on these financial statements. And it was almost like an aha moment many times when
Yeah.
we first had those discussions, like, oh, it actually does affect uh, my financial statements, what's going on, especially doing comparisons. I think many accountants fall into the trap of just giving a P&L for a static period. Uh, to tell the story, you need to have comparison of pre, post, before, after. And so doing year by year or quarter by quarter or month by month comparisons can helps construct that story.
Good, good. Now, I know you run two businesses. You've got Aspire Advisors, and then at the same time, you co founded Summit E Commerce Advisors. Why the two different companies? How are they different?
So it started at first with my business partner, who was from the e-commerce world, tried to start a bookkeeping type of a business. And we were chatting one day, and I was giving him a bunch of answers to problems he was having. And he said, Dave, I think we need to partner together. And so right around that same time, I discovered Profit First. Actually, it was very, I don't know, coincidental is the right word, but very good
Hmm.
timing
Yeah.
around that. So I wanted to go all in with that. And so I thought, oh, this is a good opportunity. Um, Primarily because I'd actually gotten out of accounting and bookkeeping for about 7 years because I couldn't make a difference with clients, meaning they wouldn't follow my direction or they wouldn't engage with phone calls when they're making important decisions. And I didn't have a system to be able to teach them. And when I came across Profit First, this is exactly what I was looking for 10 years, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And having those two together, I was working with my now former business partner. Started that in January of 2020. As many know, pandemic happened a little bit later. E-commerce took off, and so it kind of solidified that business pretty quickly. And then I set up the second business, Aspire Advisors, in May of that same year because, hey, I'm stuck at home. Might as well do something with my free time, and to serve other businesses outside of the e-commerce world, because he just wanted to focus on e-commerce.
Gotcha.
And so that's the reason why the two separate businesses, because the SOPs and the other things are different. For your niche that you're serving, e-commerce has a much different tech stack than the rest of, if you will, different accounting technologies at play.
Definitely. So I'm curious why the word advisor. Each of the companies has the term advisor in there. What are you trying to communicate with that, and how does that resonate with the clients that you service?
Advisors is intentional because I didn't want to be lumped into traditional accounting. Early on, I decided I wasn't going to do tax. I'd done tax for a number of years. I stopped doing that in 2017. And I wanted to focus on the business side of it, just because tax was getting much more complex than it had been, and to maintain a reliable knowledge and be able to execute on it just wasn't there. And so I wanted to start with the advisory side, and that's why we intentionally chose that, to be advisors for our clients and help them navigate on the financial side of their businesses and things. So it was intentional to be separate from the traditional, I guess, accounting business model.
I like the term advisor. I use it quite a bit. And for me, it's very, very deliberate, let's say. And I think it correlates very well with the CFO type services that many of us offer. This fractional CFO, part-time CFO, that CFO element is very, very important within an organization. But advisors, it's an extension of that. It's so much more. And so I like how the two go together. One of the things that I wanted to go back to is with your two businesses, you were talking about the pandemic. Clearly, we're behind that, or on the other side of it. It's behind us. What can you remember about the pandemic as it related to starting your two businesses that was kind of this new territory, unforeseen, unexpected type things that you had to deal with? Do you recall?
Yeah, it was around, hey, we're going to be here. Let's make the most of it. It's, we don't know what's going to happen. No, I didn't think it was going to be 2 years almost effectively where I couldn't travel because I was traveling a lot. And we designed the business from the ground up to be remote first, where we didn't have an office. The team was all remote. So our SOPs and everything was designed so that I could spend more time traveling and still earn a good income. And so we designed it so it was almost prescient, if you will, that we were going that direction from the beginning. I'd actually had plans to travel to the Philippines in May of that year to look at opening an office to hire talent and things for our business. Obviously, a lot of those plans changed, but me and our team were, hey, let's do the best we can with what we have right here. And so that's why I started the other business. Was, let's just make the most of what it is. We can't change it, so let's move forward with what we have and do something with the time that we have. Because I was pretty much stuck at home for the first 3 weeks, and then I started going back to the office after that.
Wow. I can't imagine how impactful that would have been starting two businesses, but I will say that I worked with many during that period of time, and there was a lot of creativity, let's say, because the business model, let's say, had changed quite a bit as it was restricted with so many of the things that were in place during those 2 years. I really commend all those businesses that started and worked through that. There were a lot of adaptations, creativity, and a lot of unknowns that people had to deal with. And clearly you did a great job with two companies, nonetheless. Now you've talked on or brought up two things that I want to speak on. One is profit first. Real quickly, you've alluded to how that was very helpful and something that resonated with you. I've spoken to a number of people over the years as it resonates with them in their business, in the services they're offering, one of which they say is it helps with the marketing. It enables them to more clearly kind of communicate the focus of the services they're offering as it's profit first oriented, and taking those principles from Mike Michalowicz's book to clearly show that businesses can have it as a priority and something that they work towards. But there was also an implementation side of it. There was kind of a process or system that you're able to do with your clients to help them kind of put this into place within their organization and make a deliberate effort of putting in a system that ensures that they get profit first. Were those the things that also resonated with you that you felt you could actually take to your clientele?
Definitely. Yeah. It was being intentional with your revenue, the cash that's coming in. It was the first system that was clearly articulated of assigning every dollar had a home to put to work and things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've got the 5 different buckets, and clearly you're able to then organize your cash flow a lot better and be more intentional about where you're spending the money and how it's being utilized. So definitely agree with that. You also brought up the fact that you leaned into the Philippines. Now, there's a lot of talk going on right now as to the shortage that exists for talent as it relates to accounting professionals. And as each of us are experiencing growth and demands on our services, it's kind of hard to grow the company when you just can't get the talent or the service or the people to service them. and you leaned into the Philippines. Tell us a little bit about how you identified the Philippines as being a solution and what you did in order to kind of utilize that and grow your businesses with basically fully remote teams.
Right. It was the mindset at the beginning was where can we find the best talent possible? And it didn't have to be here locally. It didn't have to be in the US, in fact. So the first place we went was, I think it's Upwork, as it's called now. It
Yeah,
had a different name
Upwork.
back
Yep.
then. And just to put some job search ads out and see who was the respondents. And it was pretty clear 80-90% of the people that were going to fit our system the way we wanted to work were based there. And so the intention to start with was let's hire a manager from the beginning so that they can then build the team themselves. And so teach them our hiring system, use our hiring system, find the best person we can find for a manager role, and then let them build the team, teach them the hiring system, and then turn over the responsibility of delivering bookkeeping on a consistent basis to the manager. So that was the intention to start out with, is to not hire just a bookkeeper, but a manager to build our team out.
Now, was this manager going to be someone here in the States that kind of managed things remotely, or was it going to be on site there in the Philippines where you had somebody that could interview and hire individuals within that culture?
It was in the Philippines, so we didn't make the decision to hire until October of 2020, as I recall. And so I was building the systems the first 9 months of our working summit itself, because the tech stack is much different. So it took about 7-9 months for us to build out a good system that I could then turn over to a manager. But we designed it from remote first, so that they were working from home rather than having an office.
Mm.
Our original idea was the office, but then pandemic changed that, and then with all the tools, like, wait, we don't actually need to do this. We don't have to control their working environment. We can, in our case, because we weren't offering tax and other services where those data security requirements are higher, that we were able to revert to a less controlled IT environment. So we still go through an onboard, do some processes with them to make sure everything's kosher and good on the digital security side. But we started from remote first and having them work remotely and build our team remotely, which is what it is right now still.
Now, this remote team, when you first started interviewing them, what can you share were some of the things that you were looking for to qualify an individual as being someone that you could hire remotely? It's a different culture. They have different needs and so forth. How did you define, okay, this is how much we're going to pay that's equitable for them? It's fair for us, fair for them. How did you identify how you're going to train them and, more importantly, start offloading some of the work to them?
Yeah, so on the salary side, what we did is looked around at some of the other uh, job sites, if you will, of what
Hmm.
people were offering. And then we decided to go 20% higher, just straight off the bat from what we could see average for what people were offering, because we wanted to attract the best. And we want to put that out there that we were different from everybody else. We weren't trying to just look at it as a, hey, this is where can I find the cheapest labor? It's where can we find the best people that are
Yeah.
going to integrate with our culture and what we wanted to build. And so that was how we approached the salary side. The hiring process was 3 steps, as I remember. First, once they indicated interest, they had to follow up with a specific, we call it um, a Easter egg. So they had to put it in the subject line of the email. And
Yeah.
if they didn't do that, it wouldn't even get to the second round because it was just automated in our email
Yeah.
system to do that. And then they had to answer some questions. They had to take a test I built a test around debits and credits, just 10 questions, because I didn't want people who were just software specific talent. I needed to know that they could problem solve. So debits and credits was foundational to that. We can teach the software. There's lots of YouTube training videos. Most of the software platforms have lots of training videos. We didn't have to take that on ourselves. But what we needed was somebody who could problem solve on their own in a manager role and things. And the other thing we'd asked them, round 2, we asked them to submit a video recording, just answering a light question, nothing intense. We're not looking for the answer. We're looking to see where they're at, because we wanted to make sure that nobody's working at a call center or some other thing,
Yeah.
that we were hiring somebody individual because they're going to be part of our team, not somebody else's. And The reason we went direct and not through an agency or something is we need the relationship direct with them. We can't have some third party interfering with trying to build a culture and in our workplace, and a third party would interfere in that. They could change out the person on us without telling us. Many of the contracts are not specific on the person.
Mm-hmm.
They could have a bad work environment, which I've heard a lot about from our team that have worked in these types of environments before. So we didn't want any of that in the way. We wanted the responsibility of finding and retaining the best people. That's our responsibility, not somebody else's.
So when it came down to hiring them, obviously you didn't go with a third-party service. You chose to hire them yourselves. So these are individuals that are employed by you. I'm assuming you created an entity over there in the Philippines to manage that?
We didn't early on. We have done that now since then. And partially it was because the pandemic was going on and it was pretty much impossible to travel there unless you were a citizen of the Philippines at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things we wanted to do weren't available to us. And also my best research was telling me I didn't really need to get to that level until we crossed some thresholds around especially on the tax side, data security, and to the best of my knowledge in the U.S., we don't need to have that super formal relationship like some other countries require. I
Yeah.
think like Australia and New Zealand.
So let's talk about your clients for a quick moment. Are they aware that you're actually using offshore services in addition to the team that you have here locally? And what are their thoughts as it relates to
Yeah.
offshore services? Does it matter? Does it care? I mean, there's somewhat of a stigma out there that it might be an issue. What are your thoughts to that?
Yeah. So it starts from the beginning, being intentional. You tell clients from the start of what they're going to be doing. So when we have a discovery call with the client, I tell them straight from the beginning how we're structured, who they're going to be talking to if you work with us. And if you are intentional from the beginning, especially after the pandemic, clients don't really care as long as they getting the service that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had one prospect turn us down because of that. And I think it was more related to feedback from their legal counsel because they were looking to go public in like
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 years, if I remember.
Yeah.
And maybe their legal counsel had given them, but at least we crossed that ahead of time so that we didn't find out later on and they're frustrated and things. So be intentional. Tell them from the beginning. I've never had an issue when I bring it up with clients during our prospecting and discovery calls.
I have to agree with you. The conversations I've had so far where I'm upfront and intentional about declaring it, it just becomes a non-issue. All of a sudden, it's clearly not the boogeyman in the room anymore because you're willing to bring it up and point it out. And after the pandemic, remote working, it just doesn't have the stigma that it once did, I think. The other question I'd have is you've got these people in the Philippines, and you kind of referenced this. You said in the onboarding, you would allude to the client that there are people that they might be working with. So I'm curious, are these people client facing? Do they actually interact with your clientele?
Yes. Now, we don't require the bookkeepers themselves to interact directly with the client. That's what our bookkeeping managers are there for if the bookkeeper isn't comfortable doing that. So we don't put the requirement on them to do so, but almost all of them do work directly with clients through emails and things. So, and we've got if you will, a company structure as far as a management team now that will take that on for clients that, if it needs to get escalated to somebody else to resolve a problem, a frustration or a technology error or something like that. So we're not hiring our bookkeepers to be customer service people. We're hiring them for their expertise and being able to execute on our accounting SOPs. If they want to communicate, we can. Otherwise, the bookkeeping manager, that is one of their responsibilities. If the bookkeeper is not comfortable or frustrated or they're just not confident to do so, we want their accounting expertise, not their customer service expertise.
Interesting. Good. Now, I've had quite a bit of success myself hiring individuals overseas. I've got a team of individuals that are from the Philippines. I've got some in Africa. So my point is, I've had good experience interacting with these individuals. I found them to be very loyal, very committed, and more importantly, eager to retain the employment simply because of the fact that they are, as you mentioned, oftentimes paid well, but more importantly, There's kind of a prestige that goes along with I'm working with an American company. They're pretty loyal in that regard and such. What has been your experience working with these individuals as it relates to, do they stick around? Are they good employees? Are they happy?
Yeah, all of our team are pretty happy. I would hope we have a pretty high retention rate. Uh, we rarely have turnover. We've had a couple people leave to actually start their own business as well, and doing very well. In fact, doing that. We look at our responsibilities to give them the most opportunity as possible. And that's our responsibility as business owners, is to create the environment that people will thrive. When people thrive, they want to stick around. And a testament is when we recruit for open positions, it goes first to our team for references to anybody that they want to bring to the table or introduce to our hiring process. They still go through the same hiring process, but they're introduced by one of our team members. So that's one of the best ways to know how confident your team is in you or how happy they are. If they're referring their friends and other people to your company, that's a great sign that you're doing a good job. I'm not saying a perfect job. We still all have things that we have to improve on ourselves, but that's a great way you can measure your success of one is your retention rate, and the second is when you have open positions, does your team make introductions for other roles that you have open?
Interesting. Earlier, you were talking about your own journey as it involved a lot of training. You were proactively going out and self-teaching. I'm curious, what training do you offer to your team as it relates to hiring them and then keeping them up to speed on various things? Do you offer training to more enhance the skills they already have?
Yes, we do, but most of the time the team gives me the response when I ask them about, hey, do you want training in this or that? They tell me, hey, we got YouTube. We can find out on ourselves, on our own. So they're pretty entrepreneurial in the sense of problem solving, but we do offer help when people want to take more advantage of training programs and things. So we've got a couple of people that are training for CPA license, some in the Philippines, and one actually who's based in the Philippines is taking for the US CPA
Very nice.
exam as well. And so we'd like to support them as best we can. And we're going to be implementing something in the next year or so around like credits or being able to help them with training programs to get more salary increase. You know, they're more valuable to the marketplace and things. So yeah, that's something we do. It's not a formal plan or training, but we do offer opportunities for them to take more training. So we'll buy courses and other things like that for them when there's a known need for that from the team.
Yeah. So, what advice would you have for an individual listener that is in a position of wanting to grow their accounting business and they've not experienced offshore services? This idea of hiring a third party maybe have some appeal in the sense that they have processes in place. You obviously went the route of hiring individuals directly. What advice would you have for them to specifically help them in this process and the decision of growing their business and taking care of their clients using this type of a process?
Yeah, start slow. You don't have to dive into it and looking to try to change everything over in a year or 6 months or something like that. Start slow, be intentional, and know that there's going to be cultural differences. You cannot expect them to behave exactly as you would somebody here in the U.S. And nor would you want to. You want to hire them because of what they can bring to the table. It's a little bit different than what we're used to maybe here in the US, but you'll have the most loyal, engaged, smart workforce if you just take care of them. It's pretty simple. Take care of them and understand what their needs are. One of the things I did during the pandemic, because I couldn't travel, I hadn't visited the country, even though I'd spent a lot of time in Asia. I hadn't visited the Philippines yet. I watched YouTube vlogs from people that were living there at the time
Hmm.
because I wanted to see what it was like on a daily life of somebody there, like during the pandemic and people out living outside of the city. And just getting an understanding helped a lot for me to interact with them. So it's also a journey. You as a leader need to understand your people. And that's however you can do that. That was my little hack of doing it during that period of time. But just care on them and take care of them.
Yeah. One of the things I've always said is curiosity. Just have a curiosity for the culture, for the people. And in doing so, you'll just get some things that you can use to build a relationship, have something that you can ask about that they'll be basically appreciative and grateful that you're curious. And that usually pays off. Um,
Yep.
I want to go into a little bit more of a personal type thing here. You've got two businesses you've been running. You talked about a former founder that obviously has moved on. How has the entrepreneurial journey been for you? How has it benefited your life? What do you feel you've been able to experience in a positive way that really surprises you that you didn't expect?
Coming from entrepreneurship for me was more just curious. I like doing different things and learning different things. So the first genesis of it was, hey, I just want to do something different. I don't want to be like everybody else. Not to say that what they were doing was bad. It just didn't fit for me. I wasn't happy. I wasn't enjoying the regular work in America, if you will. And so I wanted to find something else that fit my creativity. I have the classic entrepreneur's disease of thinking that I can do it better than somebody else. Uh, Sometimes it works, many times it doesn't, that I think I can do it better than somebody else. Um, and then the last part of it is how it affects people. The most satisfying thing for me right now is the impacts that we're having for our team and for our clients,
Wow.
and seeing their growth, their things that they weren't able to do before, and in some cases how bad their work environment was before they joined us, and why they're so, in many cases, very grateful for that. And then that we can make an impact with our work, not just building our team, which is fantastic, but also with our clients, that we're making a difference for them as well. So it's the impacts. That's kind of the third genesis of my entrepreneurial career, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, real quickly regarding accounting, just to kind of tie this bow on it, the accounting services that you offer with the bookkeeping accounting that you're doing for the clients, you're coupling it with advisory. I'm curious, how often are you meeting with the clients, whether it be with profit first being a component or just any other advisory element? Just from a CFO perspective, how often are you having the forward thinking, the organizational type discussions rather than just the compliant work that you're doing as it relates to bookkeeping and accounting?
It's really dependent on the client schedule and what they're looking for. We used to have a lot more meetings. Now we've converted to sharing Loom videos with clients because it was hard to get schedules to align. For me, also, my time slots have shrunk a lot in the last couple of years as our businesses have grown.
Yeah,
And we were looking for ways to still serve them and deliver what they need. And so we've leveraged technology to use Loom videos to do reviews of their financials and things. Now, there's still clients that want and desire that one-to-one coaching. And so we've actually have team members in the Philippines that are handling the CFO work. I'm not doing it currently.
I love it.
And so they have calls with our clients going over their cash forecast, how it aligns with profit first, usually a couple, 1 to 2 times a month, depending on their needs.
I love that. Just the last statement that you made of 1 to 2 times a month. I've got individuals that have shared with me that they've done very well meeting with the clients on a monthly basis. Others express value in just a quarterly type meeting. It's just interesting how every firm has a different type of relationship with the clients. And clearly it's indicative of the client needs and what they're expecting from the relationship as well. So it's just important to understand that they have needs, our clients, and we have needs as we're trying to convey information. We're seeing things, we have a perspective and insights that we need to be able to pass along to them. And when they're paying for CFO and advisory services, we need to provide that channel in which we're able to communicate it. So I appreciate your insights on that. Here's the other thing. On a personal note, you mentioned in your bio Aussie rules football, and you've been playing that for a decade. I am so curious. When I think of Aussie rules football, I'm wanting to go towards rugby. I doubt that that's what that is. Tell me what the Aussie rules football is.
Yeah, so Aussie rules football is, I was refer to it as a blend between rugby and soccer, or football as they call it overseas.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot more movement oriented. Rugby has more plays similar to like a NFL or gridiron as they call it over there. Um, but it's 18 people aside, and you go for 20-minute quarters, the professional version of it. I got connected with a local club here in the Portland area, like around 2010 or 9 or somewhere around there,
Uh huh.
and things. And so been part of the club. And then now that I've gotten to where I'm at age wise now, I don't play as much, just play locally I don't play in the national tournament anymore. But it's been fun because I was looking for a sport that had a little bit more physicality and enjoyed I'll just say, sorry to all the football fans out there or soccer fans, but the diving or other things to influence official decision, that was a big part of finding a sport that allowed a little bit more gamesmanship, if you will.
Yeah.
Go at it hard and enjoy the competition, and then hang out together afterwards at the pub.
That is awesome.
So, yeah.
And then also Mandarin Chinese. I've known a few people that do know Mandarin. I'm curious how you learned it.
Mostly self-taught. So my first trip there was January 2005. I wanted to do business there. Was the reason I went there the time in the first place. And I knew relationships were going to be the only way to make that be successful. And so language was a big part of that. So I came back from my first trip ready to go all gung-ho and trying to find university courses. And I reverted back to my way of learning accounting, which was through self-study of using Pimsleur, as I recall, Rosetta Stone, when it had like the disk install version, not the online version.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then I hired a tutor for 2 hours every Saturday just to practice verbally and things. And so I did that for like 15 months, 16 months, as I recall, to get fluent.
Wonderful. And so when was your last time that you've been back there?
It was April 2019. Yeah.
19. Oh, fairly recent then. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one of the things that I really appreciate about our conversation here is that you've got not only an initiative, a clearly entrepreneurial drive to try things, but I like the fact that you are very diverse. I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of people do is they get very myopic in what they kind of focus on, but you've got the athleticism, you've got obviously the Mandarin Chinese, you've got this whole thing going on in the Philippines as you're building a business internationally, you've got your accounting business, offering advisory services, both with an emphasis on the e-commerce space as well as just in business in general. So a lot of moving parts. I think what you're doing, Jason, is incredible. And I love that we were able to share today a little bit of that experience. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of back off here for a moment and come back to you for a closing thought. One of the things I want to do for our listeners is if you're interested in some information as it relates to some of the things that we've been talking about today, especially offering quality accounting services, one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to check out a book called Your Strategic Accountant. It actually dives into some of the things that we've been discussing today with Jason as it relates to the services that you can be offering, whether it is accounting focused, tax focused, or at that CFO and advisory level. And I encourage you to check that out. In addition, in the episode description, you'll find out some more information as to what it is you can be doing to offer advisory services, becoming what we refer to as a profit and growth expert. And one of those things that it incorporates is profit first, and how that is a valuable thing that will appeal to your clientele and help them understand what it is you can be doing to assist them to make profit a priority. And some of that is related to a book called In the Black. In the Black is basically 9 principles to make your business profitable. It's a great complement to the discussion to help business owners understand that profit can be intentional and deliberate. So definitely go to the episode description and you'll find a wealth of information there to help you, in fact, work on your business and better service your clientele. Now, as for a summary of our conversation today, I love the fact that with regards to Jason's background, he saw a need in the banking world as it related to accounting, that businesses obviously were lacking the information needed to really get the funding that they were looking for. And at the end of the day, he was able to get the skills and the resources to provide that very need a solution. And it was clearly the accounting, but it wasn't just the compliance work. It was helping the business owner understand what the numbers mean. And I like that part where we were discussing the idea of giving the financials to the business owner and seeing, do they understand what they're saying? And I really appreciated that Jason shared that there is an evolution that the client goes through as we work with them, that eventually they're going to get to the point where they do value the financial reports and see value in those numbers and utilize them in making more informed business decisions. And that evolution with the client can be very, very rewarding simply because of the fact that we're each in a position where we are able to see that we're empowering them to be much more effective as business leaders. So I like that experience. The other thing I liked about what Jason was sharing was this evolution of seeing, okay, I can actually grow this business and do so utilizing some international talent, finding the Philippines, basically creating a process to find, onboard, train them, and get them working. I thought that was fascinating. So many of the people I work with are in actual environments, kind of like a work office. He was working with people remotely in their homes and provided for them the technology in which they could enable and do that. I think that's fascinating. I also feel that it's impressive to realize that he saw the value in hiring a managing individual, someone that could be there to more or less be their liaison, their representative in working with all these people. And clearly it's worked. He's grown a sizable business leveraging that workforce. And I liked how he was able to communicate how loyal they are and how committed they are, because I've experienced the same. The other thing I also enjoyed was just the personal side of it. The fact that he was able to kind of share a little bit of how he kind of diverts his energy and finds a hobby and interest that he's able to kind of recharge himself. And for him, it was the athleticism of sports, the Aussie football. I think that's impressive. It's definitely non-traditional. And that's one of the things that appeals to me is he's looking for something that is meeting his needs as they are. He got the physicality that he was looking for, but more importantly, he got that gameplay that he was hoping. And in the end, was able to go to the pubs and enjoy the interactions with one another. So beautiful, beautiful discussion, excellent conversation, wonderful insights. So Jason, what would you add as we wrap up this show today?
Yeah, say be intentional about your business. We're speaking to other accounting firm owners, I believe, and start with the idea of being intentional. You build your business the way you want to, that serves you and your clients the best way possible. That's the way we did it. Using that factor, you can do the same.
Perfect. Well, Jason, thank you for those insights. I'm so happy that we've had you on the show today. I thought it was an excellent conversation. For the listeners, I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the podcast. This is a podcast that comes out each and every week with highlights that you want to understand about things related to your business, in fact, building the premier accounting firm. So definitely subscribe, set your notifications, and I encourage you to also go check out the highlight reels that we've put together. We've organized some playlists that you can go binge listen to. They are on universalaccounting.com. They're at universalaccounting.com. You'll see in the navigations the podcast section, and it's there you'll find the highlights. And in those highlights, you can dive into various topics, hearing from the experts as they specifically relate to things ranging from marketing, selling, pricing, tech stacks, and so much more. So definitely go binge listen to those and hear from the experts, those things that are applicable to your business as it is today. In addition to this, I want to invite you to GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference for the owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. This is an event you do not want to miss. It's here you're going to hear from the experts live from the stage, basically those different things that they feel are appropriate for us to focus on right now as we're building our businesses. You get to meet with your peers, collaborate with them, find out what it is they're doing to be successful. And at the same time, meet us here at Universal Accounting, the staff committed to actually helping you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal. So come join us for GrowCon. You do not want to miss this event. It's an annual conference in May that you want to attend. Here in 2024, it'll actually be in Jacksonville, Florida. So join us. Go to universalaccounting.com, and there you'll find the information you need to register, and I look forward to seeing you there. In addition to all of this, if you would like to, you can reach out to us at Universal Accounting if you'd like to find out more about these principles, these concepts, these various things that we're discussing in the show. Just go to universalaccountingschool.com, or you can join us by calling 801-265-3777. Either way, we look forward to speaking with you to find ways that we can work on your business together. With all that being said, thanks for listening. I hope you have an amazing day, and always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and be safe out there.